Welcome to Soccer Morning on World Soccer Talk. Here's your host, Jason Davis.
Good morning, everybody. Happy Thursday. Welcome into Soccer Morning. We are on the way to a fantastic show covering soccer around the world. Man, this is going to be a good one. Today is a big day in our little particular corner of the soccer world here in the United States of America. We've got a schedule coming out for Major League Soccer 2016. We've got a logo unveiling out in LA, although one's already bouncing around Twitter, a leaked logo. We'll see if that's the actual one. And you've got an announcement in San Antonio of the USL team that's coming to that city to replace the NASL team that is no more. Also, other things happening. There's always other things happening. It's one of those things. I just realized I didn't turn on one of my lights today. Trevor didn't tell me that, so it's a little dark on the video. We'll get that fixed. The other thing happening today is we're going to talk to Amanda Duffy, the president of Louisville City FC. Big news out of Louisville. They are commissioning a study there, the city is, to look into the possibility of building a soccer stadium for the city of Louisville. This is all meant to be part of a push to get Louisville into the major leagues. That's right, an MLS expansion candidate, possibly. We'll talk to Amanda Duffy about that effort there in Louisville. Coming up in just a couple of minutes, that is today's guest. Let's go ahead and jump into the news before we get to Miss Duffy. First and foremost, the United States men's national team now has a roster for their January camp. 2 friendlies coming in at the end of that camp, of course, Iceland and Canada. Goalkeepers, Bill Hamid, Luis Robles. We'll come to the goalkeeper that's missing here in a second. Defenders, Kellen Acosta, Matt Beasler, Matt Miazga, Eric Miller, and Tim Parker. Yep, some young guys in there. Also young guys in the midfield, Fatai Alashe, Michael Bradley, Mix Discarud, Ethan Finley, Jermaine Jones, Darlington Nagbe, Lee Wynn, Mark Pelosi, Matt Polster, Tony Chani, Will Trapp. Forwards, Josie Altidore, Jerome Kiesewetter, Jordan Morris, Kyrie Shelton, and Giassi Zardis. 11 players on this list are eligible for the United States U23 team that's going to have to go and beat Colombia over 2 legs come March. The goalkeeper that's missing, why there's only 2, I think, and why certainly you're not hearing a name you had heard linked to this camp, Jesse Gonzalez, the Mexican U20 player, FC Dallas goalkeeper, product of the FC Dallas Academy, it was believed originally accepted a call-up to the U.S. camp and then changed his mind, had a change of heart, sticking with Mexico and reporting to a Mexican U23 camp. So a bit of a downer there if you had hoped that maybe Jesse Gonzalez would flip and become a U.S. international rather than a Mexican international. So, an interesting mix here. Again, a camp that leads up to a couple of friendlies, end of the month, beginning of February. Reports in L'Equipe initially said yesterday that Didier Drogba had retired and was taking that coaching job at Chelsea. Speculation, of course, that Drogba would be leaving the Montreal Impact and MLS in order to take that job at Chelsea at the request of Roman Abramovich and Gus Hiddink. He has denied that he has retired. He has flat out said, "Lovely to receive these messages, but I have not yet announced my retirement. I am still in discussion with the Montreal Impact about my future." That's what he tweeted. I found this interesting. I'm glad he's finally saying something. He probably should have said something when he popped up at Stamford Bridge immediately following the firing of Jose Mourinho and the beginning of all of these rumors. But I will say it's weird that he's in discussion. It's clear if he's tweeting this, if he hasn't said I want to play, if he's not tweeting I want to play for the Impact in 2016, then he's basically gone already. If not in an actual fact and legally speaking, contractually speaking, then certainly in will. He doesn't want to be in Montreal. He wants to be in London. I think that's pretty clear from that tweet. We'll see what the Montreal Impact can get out of this deal that's going to end up sending Didier Drogba off to London. Romelu Lukaku scores the winner in Everton's 2-1 triumph over Manchester City in the first leg of the Capital One Cup semifinals. Lukaku has scored 12 goals in his last 12 games, 19 goals on the year. He did limp off with 9 minutes left, so that's a bit of a blow for the Toffees. We're seeing a City team that's sleepwalking through a lot of games. This one caught up with them. They fell to a winner from Lukaku. Now, of course, this is an aggregate 2-legged situation, so they do have an opportunity to come back and overcome that one-goal deficit in the Capital One Cup semifinals. I'm not sure how much Manuel Pellegrini cares about the Capital One Cup, but City needs something to get them juiced, to send them on their way, not only for the English campaign, but also in Europe. Louisville, as I mentioned, and as we will talk to Amanda Duffy about, has announced a stadium study as the city pushes for a possible MLS expansion bid. The $75,000 study will look into the, quote, physical, operational, and financial characteristics for building a new stadium in Louisville. The study will look at 4 possible locations. Louisville City of the USL, in their first season, averaged 6,700 plus fans. That was second best in the league to Sacramento Republic. They also averaged 8,500 for their playoffs. So a very strong debut for professional soccer in the modern age in Louisville, Kentucky. We'll see what Amanda Duffy has to say about those numbers and how they relate to a future possible MLS expansion bid for that city. Again, MLS looking to expand to 28. Louisville may not be top of that list, but we've seen some underdogs pop up and make their way into the conversation before. Certainly nobody had Orlando being a Major League Soccer city by 2015, say 10 years ago. The San Jose Earthquakes announced on Wednesday the signing of winger Simon Dawkins as a designated player. Dawkins returns to the club that he played for in 2011 and 2012 on loan from Tottenham. Dawkins spent most of the last 3 years with Derby County of the English Championship, and most recently sort of a reserve player. Some question over this move, although Dawkins certainly knows the league, contributed a lot to a very successful year for the Earthquakes back in 2011 and 12, a couple of seasons for the Quakes, and now returns to the scene where he probably played the best soccer of his career. We'll see exactly what he brings to the Quakes this time around. All right. Well, when I take a break, I'm going to get my light on. We're going to get Amanda Duffy on the line, and let's do this. Let's talk about Louisville, Kentucky as an MLS expansion candidate. Yep, you heard it here. Soccer Morning, WorldSoccerTalk.com. Don't go anywhere. Be right back.
Welcome back to Soccer Morning on World Soccer Talk with Jason Davis.
There we go, back on Soccer Morning on worldsoccertalk.com. Getting to do one of my favorite things. That's talk to people around the American soccer scene as we attempt to grow the game in this country. We have the president of Louisville City FC on the line with us now, Amanda Duffy. She's joining us this morning. Hi, Amanda. How are you?
I'm good, Jason. Thanks for having me on today.
Thanks for coming on. This it seems that you're a very busy person right now with this announcement that there's going to be a stadium viability study from the city of Louisville. Just give me a sense here, and we'll get into what this means for Louisville City in a second. But what is this? What exactly is this that the city of Louisville is doing?
Well, they've been working the past several months to evaluate and bring in a consulting company to do exactly what's been announced, evaluate some site options and look at some feasibility studies on the financing piece of this also to bring a soccer-specific stadium to Louisville. So for us, it's for them to be in position to bring in a quality company such as CSNL into Louisville to jumpstart this project, and the evaluation of these sites is big for Louisville City.
Okay, so we're talking about, again, I want to make sure that we're clear here. I mean, you're the president of the club, and you certainly have a vested interest in pushing soccer in the city. The idea is that for Louisville City FC, this is a potential to promote that club as the groundwork for a move up in the world in terms of American soccer?
It is, and when our ownership announced the franchise in June of 2014 that Louisville City was joining United Soccer League, part of that announcement was also an opportunity for the ownership to indicate at that point that the ultimate goal here was to have the franchise at the highest level of the sport in the United States, that being Major League Soccer. So for the past year and a half, that's obviously something we've spoken about here locally. Our fans, our supporters, city officials understand that's what the objective is. And in this city, where there's been a lot of interest over the past number of years to bring a major league sport to the city, we all feel right now that soccer has the best opportunity to make that happen. Mm-hmm. So to bring this consultant in after a year in the league and a very good year at that, successful on a lot of fronts, we feel like we're in a good position right now to make some big steps in the immediate future.
Now, obviously, soccer's growth makes it a very attractive sport, regardless of the sort of the position of Louisville as a city within the larger scope of major league cities in the country. But I think, Amanda, you're as aware as anybody that Louisville's got a little bit of an uphill battle to convince people that it is a major league city because there's no other major league sports team there, and because the smallest market in MLS right now is Salt Lake City, and that's a good sign for a city like Louisville. But clearly, when people look and go, oh well, Louisville's the 43rd largest metropolitan area in the country, that doesn't strike people as where MLS should be looking.
Certainly, we understand that, and we understand that as each new soccer franchise comes in, there's an expectation and an ambition to move that organization to the highest level that it's possible for each respective new team. For us, we feel like it's a benefit to us to be in a city that it's a growing city and has had a lot of success on many different levels, but has the ambition and motivation with the city officials, Metro Council, the mayor's office, the people that we need to work in concert with to move to the major league level. We feel like it's to our benefit that we're not competing with other major league sports in this market. So okay. We understand though that there are a lot of organizations right now that have their eye on Major League Soccer. It was definitely exciting a few weeks ago when MLS announced that they were going to expand to 28 teams in the next few years. And we're in position after our first year and the success we've had from an attendance standpoint on the field with the results we had into the playoffs and bringing the quality players that we had in here in Louisville. So we feel like we've got some pieces in place. We've put a good foundation after one season, but understand that it's an uphill battle for any organization, and we need to make sure we do the things we can, control the things we can,
right.
And put the best product on the field and in the community.
Well, clearly, in a place like Louisville, having an organization like yours with the attendance success, and we'll come. I mentioned those numbers at the top of the show actually, and we can certainly touch on them. That's probably more important to the candidacy of the city than, say, the lower division team in Atlanta. We know Atlanta's a little bit of a different market when it comes to MLS and their ambitions. So you see yourself, meaning Louisville City FC, sees itself as an integral part of proving the efficacy of Louisville as a soccer town.
We do. It's important, and we recognize that from an attendance standpoint, we were second behind Sacramento from a season ticket number, from our game average number. We were behind Sacramento with the attendance that we had in our first season, which I think exceeded a lot of expectations here locally and on the national level as well. So, but we know that where we were in year one, we have to build off of that. We know there are boxes that we have to check to be a part of the conversation for Major League Soccer, and part of that is an attendance standpoint. Our corporate partnerships need to improve our engagement and relationships with the corporate community here in Louisville, and the general engagement with the fans and other organizations that can help us move forward as a community into Major League Soccer, not just as a soccer organization.
Yeah, again, the numbers are impressive. You guys averaged 6,700 in the regular season, 8,500 in the playoffs. Obviously, there was some enthusiasm for Louisville City FC, and I guess the question for a lot of people, man, is going to be, certainly one of mine, is how do we know and how do you prove that that's not just the new factor in town?
Well, I think we're going to prove that in year two and in year three when we look to build those numbers. One of the thresholds we looked to surpass in year one was having a game with more than 10,000 fans in attendance, and we came close to that when we hosted Orlando City in August this year on a Tuesday night. Had a little more than 9,000 fans in the stadium. So that was a good success for us. However, we didn't reach the threshold we wanted to reach in year one. That's something we want to be not just past that, but at least from a game average be at that number, a 10,000 number of fans in the stadium every game, and show that there's a progression from our attendance standpoint. And we saw it. We can look at the average attendance we had in year one. But if you look at the course of the season and the progression of our attendance numbers, starting with our opener through the playoff game, and how our average attendance continued to rise through the course of the season, is obviously more fans were aware of us. It was a positive experience, the game experience. Our fans always walked away really enjoying what they saw on the field and what they experienced in the stadium. So we feel like we've got a good environment right now, a good platform and foundation to build off of, to increase the engagement inside the stadium and make it an even bigger and better experience on game day when they come. But it is going to be something that we have to show that in year two and year three, that while our numbers were good in year one, that there is growth and that we're continuing to turn this into a soccer community.
I'm very fascinated in the process of selling soccer in Louisville or anywhere in this country, that for that matter, from your perspective. But before we get there, I have to ask. I mean, I sort of talked about this yesterday, Amanda. There seems to be this trend that if a soccer team gets started in any reasonably sized town in this country, the ownership and the management immediately have to talk about MLS and reaching the highest level, or if it's an MLS team, they talk about being one of the best clubs in the world. The ambitions are always very large, and I wonder if that's a function of just how people in the game and in sports and in business think, or if it's a matter of that being an important message to send to fans in order to continue to get that sort of enthusiasm that you need to sell tickets.
It is for us an important piece to talk about the the direction we want to go, the ambition to be a Major League Soccer team and city. So as we talk about it, and I understand what you mean, having worked at USL prior to coming to Louisville City and seeing the transition and progression of the sport in the lower division levels as well as the Major League Soccer level over the last 6 or 7 years, and the growth that it's seen when we talk about just general fan support, but also with TV viewerships and other marketing opportunities that the sport has seen and seen growth in. So, but for us, again, as a city that's in a community that's talked about having a major league sport in Louisville for many years, and understanding that this is right now the best opportunity for us to bring a major league sport to Louisville. We certainly want to maximize and capitalize on the opportunity that we have, which makes the yesterday's announcement, even more important to show that it's not just a line item in a conversation or a piece that our owners are talking about, but we aren't doing the work behind it to do everything we need to check all of those boxes that are going to be required to bring a major league sport to Louisville. We have the support of the mayor's office, the Metro Council members, city officials, City of Louisville. We have the support of a lot of people here in the community that is necessary for us to move to the next level.
That phenomenon sort of fascinates me as well, because we obviously live in an environment these days where selling the idea of a stadium to a locality is sometimes very difficult, especially when it comes to city councils and budgets and tax hikes and all of these things that usually come with this territory. Not knowing the details of what this study is going to go into, I'm just curious. I mean, how do you sell the people of Louisville on the notion that this is a good idea, if there is at all any sort of public funding involved?
Well, that's where we have to do our part from a front office standpoint in putting a quality product on the field, putting a quality product in the community, and helping our fans and the city understand that this is about the community. It's about the growth and development of the community, and what we're doing is in concert with the city officials' direction from a bigger picture on the growth and development of the city of Louisville. And that's where we really want to focus in year two, is showing that and being more accessible as a team and an organization, and more impactful as an organization in this community, so that the fans can connect to it and understand the benefits of professional soccer being in Louisville.
In terms of the USL experience to this point, I mean, again, obviously the ambition is to go for MLS and to turn Louisville into a Major League Soccer city and take Louisville City FC all the way up. But so far, and again, only 1 year in, with another year coming very, very soon, what has that been like? Because obviously this is a league that's gone through some serious transition the last couple of years. Obviously the MLS partnership, all of those teams being added, the explosion sort of in terms of the number of teams, and then therefore the number of partners you have in the process. And I imagine, like you said, your experience is significant, but there are people in Louisville who have to learn how to run a soccer club. How's that gone?
It's going well. It's learning how to run a soccer club. It's also educating the fans on the support that you have at a soccer game and what you need in the community from the fans. So it's in the transition and progression that USL has made is certainly speak volumes to the ownership and leadership and everyone at USL for getting USL to the point that it is today, where we can talk about stability in the league and we talk about the quality of the ownership in the league. And that wasn't always the case. So to be competing in a league right now and to have had the success in our first year in a league that is bringing in quality ownership, quality organizations, quality leadership and managers and executives across the league, and for us to be at the front of that right now is a good place to be, and it certainly keeps us motivated to make sure we're operating at the highest level we can, a professional level that exceeds our own expectations, the community's expectations, and we're putting the best product on the field and in the communities talked about here in Louisville.
That leads me into a question about the general landscape of lower division soccer in the United States. Obviously, MLS, by virtue of its age and the corporate partnerships and the TV deals, is the top league. We all know that. But then there's the NASL, which is trying to forge their own path, a very different path than MLS. USL, which is again a different path, but also in partnership with MLS. Why? And I don't know if you're in a place to speak for anybody, but why is Louisville a USL city and not an NASL city?
Well, for us, the I guess history of Louisville City. One of our owners, Wayne Estopanol, is also a minority owner with Orlando City, and has been since Orlando was in Austin prior to the relocation of that franchise. So when Orlando was awarded the Major League Soccer rights, the decision was made to move the USL franchise to Louisville. So I think from, obviously that relationship and situation is one aspect to it, but also with USL, the growth that it has proven and shown over the last 3 to 4 years, and the growth that it's experienced. And again, talking about the quality of the ownerships, you see there's a dependability factor to it, where what you're going to see from a year in and year out standpoint. And going back 6 or 7 years, that wasn't necessarily the case. So it provides a lot of security and assurance to new owners coming in.
Again, I imagine the infrastructure, the support is a major factor in this, and one thing that I consistently harp on, Amanda, is that clubs need to once they're established, they need to continue to exist in one form or another. I mean, obviously, in the case of Orlando, they went from being a USL franchise to being an MLS franchise, but the name stayed the same, and they obviously carried over that fan base. That's crucial to the growth of the sport, to have fans be able to latch on to a team for longer than a couple of years. Can you just speak to the issue that American soccer has in sort of burning fans in some of these cities where maybe ownership is overreached, or maybe there's a question of exactly how best to run clubs within financial restraint?
Well, I think I think with the success of Major League Soccer and learning here in the United States how to operate and run a soccer organization as a business, understanding those revenues and having more revenue opportunities as an organization has helped ownerships that are coming into the sport. And with the growth of it, the trajectory of soccer in North America it's skyrocketed over the last 5 or 6 years, and as more fans come in behind it to support it, as there's more knowledge of the sport from not just an American standpoint, but obviously understanding the game from a world perspective, being able to access games from a world perspective, and of course seeing players coming into the United States that are recognizable names around the world playing here in Major League Soccer. I think there's a lot of positives that have helped give assurance to whether it's fans or ownerships to be a part of this sport. And from a league perspective, I know they understand the responsibility to themselves and to existing owners within the league to bring in owners and operators that have the ability to operate for 3 to 5 years at a minimum, whereas previously it seemed like it was, okay, you need to fill some gaps and you need to take what you can get because there's an interest but not necessarily the knowledge to operate a professional soccer team at the level and ability that it needs to for the sport to be successful.
Well,
and that's where I think it's changed.
So that's a matter of knowledge sharing then?
I'm sorry, say that again?
That's a matter of sharing I don't know what the landscape was previous to the current situation with USL or NASL for that matter, but it seems to me that maybe there was a disconnect between ownership groups and again the people who knew how to run a club versus people who didn't, and maybe sharing best practices is something that's getting better.
It is absolutely at the ownership level, and then of course in the team operators level, understanding the best practices from the successful organizations that are currently successful or previously have been successful in certain aspects, but it is a lot more open, a lot more dialogue. I can speak from a USL perspective, a lot more dialogue amongst the teams and best practice sharing, which is helpful to the teams, but also helpful to the sport to find our path, allow everyone to find a path that's going to work, that's unique to the marketplace, but also beneficial to the sport.
All right, this is going to lead me to one of the biggest, most controversial issues that faces people like me who are covering American soccer day to day, Amanda, and that's the notion of a pyramid that is not integrated. There's no movement between the divisions, and as someone who is running a club in USL, do you believe that the lack of a promotion and relegation system in the United States is a hindrance to further growth, especially at the level that is the second or third division?
I don't think it's a hindrance right now for us. We look at the direction that USL is going right now. It's talked about its pursuit of moving to the Division II level in the United States. I think if you look at the last 5 years of the sport in North America, the landscape of it, and how it's evolved, I don't think there's been we've lost anything from the excitement and support that individual teams are getting and the sport is getting right now. And I just think that with the path that it's on, the next 5 years is going to look very different than it is today. So I don't think we're in a situation where, because we don't have promotion relegation, the sport is missing out or any one team is missing out on any opportunities. I understand how in other leagues it's exciting and it works, but I think with where we are in the United States right now, we aren't missing anything by not having promotion relegation.
Well, there may be a slightly different way to ask that question. Is there any sense at all that some sort of promotion relegation system, whether it involves MLS or doesn't, could be instituted to any good effect? I mean, it's a question of being ready, I'm asking.
Not necessarily, not right now. I think when you look at the ownership levels and entry into any of the leagues, they're different requirements and different standards. And I think right now the sport still is, in general terms, is still in an infant stage. So I think it still needs some more time to evolve and develop before you make significant changes such as that to the sport in the United States right now.
And to certainly in the same sort of vein, but more about the business side of soccer in this country. I mean, we just got done talking about MLS and the explosion and what MLS has done right. But the league started with that single entity structure for a legitimate reason, I think. At some point, though, you have to wonder if that's the training wheels and they need to come off. Is single entity attractive to people who are involved in the game at the lower levels who are actively pursuing MLS? Is it single entity that's attractive? Is it the top level that's attractive? Does single entity play any role at all in how, say, the Louisville City FC owners look at moving into MLS in the future?
No, for us, it's about bringing the highest level of the sport to Louisville, bringing a major league sport to Louisville and the state of Kentucky. For us right now, the franchise system that we're working with USL works for us, and we've after one season have found success so far, and feel like we're in a situation where we continue to see success. So for Louisville City, the motivation isn't to be a part of a single entity organization. It's to bring major league soccer to the city.
And as we get ready to wrap this up, and I very much appreciate the time, Amanda. Again, we're talking about growing lower division soccer in the United States, but then every one of these cities or a lot of these organizations having the notion of building to MLS at some point in the future. There's going to be a stadium study in the city of Louisville to look into this. I had something else in mind and it's completely gone out of my. Oh, I'm sorry. This is where I wanted to go with this. Directly related to the health and viability of Louisville City FC, as we just talked about, with clubs coming and going. Austin, for example, has the Austin Aztecs revived after the original team moved to Orlando. Was in USL last year, has gone on hiatus due to some money concerns. I imagine that, I don't want to assume that based on your attendance, everything is hunky-dory with Louisville City FC, but I think it's worth asking how the finances of USL, without you giving me any proprietary details, are working for Louisville City.
Well, we think right now, from USL standpoint, the league is growing, which is a good thing. And talking about the ownership that's coming in, it's the ownership is quality, and there's the assurance that the owners that come in, the new teams that come in, are going to be here for years to come, and not just add in terms of quantity to the league, but add to the quality of the league. And as each new group comes in, obviously raises the bar and standard for competition on and off the field, whether it's for players or just competing to be the best in USL. For us, we have more than 40 owners in our ownership group, and majority of them are locally based. So we have a very committed group here in Louisville that great ambassadors for the city that really want to see this happen for the Louisville community. So for us, we feel good. I feel good about the people around us that are supporting this staff and this team, the players, to build this club, and feel good about doing it in a league that's also showing growth and stability as it moves forward.
Amanda Duffy, president of Louisville City FC. Their big news in Louisville is the city has commissioned a stadium study. Louisville City moving into their second season in USL off of a banner year to start their existence. Amanda, congratulations on the news. Obviously, we hope that study comes out with some good things for Louisville in terms of the potential to build a soccer stadium. And then that means good things for you and your club. Thank you for your time.
Thanks so much, Jason.
There goes Louisville City FC president Amanda Duffy. Good stuff, man. Lots of insight into the lower division life as that city and that club pushes towards MLS. Let's take a break. We'll open up the phone lines and talk to you on a Thursday. Don't go anywhere. Be right back.
Welcome back to Soccer Morning on World Soccer Talk. with Jason Davis.
All right, here we go. We're back on Soccer Morning. It's Thursday. I'm ready to go. Take your phone calls on whatever is on your mind. And like I said, it's a big day in American soccer circles. Not only do we have Louisville City FC all excited about the stadium viability study by the city of Louisville that could possibly get them going towards MLS candidacy, expansion candidacy, but we also have the schedule coming out for 2016 for MLS. No expansion franchises in 2016. That's kind of, when's the last time that happened? Do we have a 2014 expansion team? I don't recall. Maybe we didn't. Maybe that was a year we skipped it. But clearly you had 2 teams in 2015. We go to 0 teams in 2016, and then we're going to rush again. Bunch of 2 teams in 2017, at least, right? Also today, the announcement, the debut, the unveiling of LAFC, speaking of expansion, sort of, LAFC's new logo. Their official logo. And you know, we've spent some time, I don't want to say bashing, but certainly critically discussing LAFC's approach to things. We have many times questioned whether LAFC was getting it right. They're unveiling their logo today. That's not happening until 12:30 Eastern time, and yet there's a leak out there on Twitter with a shirt, and it's a badge, and it's a seal, and then inside it's gold and black, and it's an LA. The A has a win. I like it a lot. I actually do like it a lot. If this is the real deal, and Grant Wall says he's heard it's the real deal, so if this is the real deal, and Grant Wall would know, then they did well. Congratulations, LAFC. Well done, sirs and madams. Well done. That I can get behind. In fact, please send me I am not above this. Please send me some gear. Who do I write to? LAFC, care of Nomar Garcia Parra, Mia Hamm, Tony Robbins, Magic Johnson. Who's the really old movie producer who's involved? That guy. That's who I need to write to. Regardless, hello, hipster marketing types at LAFC. Send me gear. Look at what I've got going on here. Look at what I could show off. How I could show off your lovely new logo right behind me here on the set of Soccer Morning on Backheel.com, WorldSoccerTalk.com. You need to be doing this. Sending me stuff. Yeah, I don't care. I'm shameless. Ray in Milwaukee, you're on the air.
Hey, Jason. I just like to give out some predictions for 2016 real quick.
All right, predictions. 2016. Ray in Milwaukee, go.
Okay, I think that the LA Galaxy are going to win the MLS Cup due to some rule change in the middle of the season that helps them out. I think that Club America is going to win a league title in Mexico, thanks to a large part.
Ray. Are they going to win?
Yes.
Are they going to win the 2015-16 Clausura? Or are they going to win
Clausura?
They're not.
Clausura.
You're talking about the Clausura. So come May or June, they're going to win. May. That's May. Right? Yeah, May. Go ahead.
Thanks to a large part to a donation to an arbitro, which is a referee signed by Televisa.
All right. Go ahead.
I think that Argentina wins the Copa America.
Okay, fair enough.
I think they play Mexico, and Mexico gets into the finals thanks to a call by
I'm sensing a theme.
An American referee.
I'm sensing a theme, Ray. What's going on?
I think France wins the Euros.
Okay.
And side note, I think that the England national team bows out in the quarterfinals on penalties.
That's probably about right. That one I can definitely get behind. Yeah.
I think Chivas gets relegated, but don't spend a day in the Ascenso because the owners get together and force Jorge Vergara to sell to Carlos Slim.
Yeah, and they'll do some sort of franchise swap. Yeah, they'll do a franchise swap. They'll buy a team that's coming up, and they'll swap the franchise identities, and then the team will move to the quote unquote move to Guadalajara and become Chivas. Which is if that happens, that's a joke. I mean, that is a joke. If you say whatever you want about the way MLS operates, and the rules are ridiculous. And as you're saying, Ray, maybe LA gets the benefit of some rule change in the middle of the season or something. I mean, I know you're being slightly tongue in cheek, but people certainly believe that stuff happens. To out and out manipulate a situation so that Chivas de Guadalajara, the most famous club in Mexico, doesn't get relegated. I mean, look, River Plate got relegated. They went down. They came back, but they went down. It's not like the Argentine FA went, well, that can't happen. Let's fix this. Wait. No, River Plate went down, and they had to fight their way back up, and then they become South American champions. I mean, that's how it works.
Right. I'm just trying to get rid of Jorge Vergara from North American
Wouldn't
soccer
that be
in
lovely?
general.
Wouldn't that? And you know what? I think I did this. I think I opened up the floor, maybe on Sirius XM, to like the worst owners in soccer, something. I don't know what the theme was, but somehow I managed to bypass Jorge Vergara, and I was like, wait, how did I forget about Jorge Vergara? I mean, really, if you're I don't know exactly how Chivas fans feel about Vergara, but I can't imagine they like the guy at all. Who's the most hated owner in sports by their own fan base? It might be Jorge Vergara.
Well, I definitely put him in the top. I think that there's going to be two new coaches at Manchester. I think Arsenal finishes in second place because that's Arsenal. And I think that Man City's going to fire their coach after winning the league because that's the only right thing to do.
Okay. Ray, I appreciate the phone calls, man. It's been good picks. All right. Ray in Milwaukee. Yeah. Let's see. We've got some people on Twitter. I like the LA badge, too. Do the colors look black and gold or black and blue? Says Jeff. Obviously a reference to that famous dress. By the way, my Twitter friend Prairie Rose Clayton, who you guys might know, Hoover Dam on Twitter, is pointing out that there needs to be some pink involved in this logo, and I know what she's referencing. She's talking about Palermo, right? Like there needs to be you could do this LA logo, which is black and gold on the shirt, throw in some pink, and it would probably look pretty good. It'd look a little bit like Palermo. I'm on board with this. 646-832-3909 is the phone number. Taking your phone calls on a Thursday. Again, it's a big day. Let's see. We've got the schedule coming out. I don't know what you're expecting. Excuse me. People get actually excited about the schedule, right? This is trip planning, I guess, is what it is, more than anything else. The schedule release is which games I'm going to, which way trips I can make, which teams are coming to my town that I want to go see because they have a big name or something like that, right? Something like that, I guess. Let's check in with Bill up in New York. What's up, Bill?
Jason, how are you? I was going to call on Monday, but on Monday you put too much pressure on your callers. You were voted number one in 2015, and then the first call is going to set the tone for 2016.
Come on, man! It's all fun. It doesn't mean anything. We're not doing international diplomacy here, Bill.
I don't know how Robert sleeps at night with that pressure on him now. If this show fails, it's all his fault.
You know what? Robert is, I would put Robert in the category of just doesn't know any better. Like he doesn't feel the pressure because for him it's just talking soccer. That's the way you should look at it, Bill. You're too old. You're too old, and your wisdom has created pressure that you don't need to feel.
That's it, definitely. I wanted to talk about Jermaine Jones. Is anybody getting worried about his future right now? I don't think he's going to play in the Copa America this year. Because, am I right? He can't play with the national team until he serves his 6-game suspension. Is that correct?
That's correct.
I don't see who picks him up right now. I don't see anybody in Europe saying, all right, we'll take you. You're going to miss 6 games. So the Europe teams are out. And then the MLS teams, they're not going to pay him what he wants. And even if they do, I think in the back of their head, they're saying the same thing. We're going to have him miss 6 games, go to the Copa America, and then come back probably injured. What are we getting out of this guy? I'm really worried about his future. I think he may be in a bad position right now.
You bring up a lot of factors into whether or not his signing is going to go relatively smoothly. I don't know where he's going to sign. He's in the team. He's in the January camp. That's clearly not only is that perhaps Klinsmann, continuing to rely on a veteran player, I guess, especially for camp training, for the tone in camp, but also because he probably thinks I need to get Jermaine Jones in front of some people, some eyeballs to get or just get him fit so that he can go out perhaps trials. I don't know. I mean, at this point in his career, is Jermaine Jones going out on trial? I guess.
And Klinsmann's doing it because he wants him to go to Europe somewhere. I can't see a European picking him up right now. How do you pick him up in the second half of the season knowing he's going to miss 6 games?
Yeah.
I think we may miss him for the Copa America this year.
It's possible. I'm not sure I would shed a tear for that. And before I let you go, because I got Eddie and Brooklyn lined up, Bill, but let me ask you about this roster beyond Jermaine Jones. I mean, again, this is not indicative of anything. It's a Camp Cupcake roster. We know it doesn't really inform the rest of the year, but there usually are 1 or 2 guys who pop up who maybe start to get some playing time down the road. Do you see anybody here? I mean, is it just obviously a guy like Miazga who's already a fixture with an MLS team with international ambition?
I mean, we're always hoping for that guy. We're always hoping for the young guy. We're hoping for Morris and Miazga. I just don't know. I can't tell. I have no clue what Klinsmann thinks with this. How he hates MLS players, and then he goes with all MLS players, and he wants only Euro players. I can't figure him out, and I'd love to see Miazga. I'd love to see Morris. I'd love to see all these young guys like everybody else. But like a guy like Jermaine Jones, to me, with all that experience, and I don't think he's much further than the Copa America this year, but I think he's a big part for the Copa America this year to have his experience in that tournament. Okay. And a great tournament that's going to be in the United States. We want to do well, and I think somebody like him would be a real benefit this year. After this year, I think he's done also.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens, Bill. You might be right. You're laying out a pretty doomsday scenario for Jermaine Jones, and I can't really argue with any of those points. That suspension is such such a negative for signing him, and the salary and everything else. You got anything else, Bill?
Yeah, I think that suspension is going to come back to haunt him. Can I throw out one thing about Drogba real quick? If Drogba retires, he gets to go and coach at Chelsea, no fee, nothing for MLS. Is that correct?
Wait, what now? Say that again. If he retires,
I heard something. If Drogba retires, that's it. He's completely off with Montreal. He hasn't worried about his contract for next year.
Yeah,
Montreal won't get any fees for that. Yeah, and he can go and coach at Chelsea.
The whole negotiation element of it is simply because I think Drogba doesn't want to officially retire and eliminate the possibility he could suit up for Chelsea. I think he wants to keep that door open, maybe be a player coach. And if he's a player coach, then he has a contract with Montreal, and Montreal is due compensation. So that's what that is.
Because I kind of think Drogba should give something back to Montreal. He had a great year. They loved him up there. They went nuts for him up there. Chelsea has more money than they know what to do with. And MLS is so tight with money and has such a hard time. At least if you're going to leave, have them pay them something.
Oh yeah, no, sure. I think that's what's happening right now. We've already heard rumors that MLS is playing hardball with Chelsea, and that's been out there. I think the Telegraph had that. I was fascinated to see the Telegraph use the phrase hardball because that's a baseball thing to me. But whatever. I think that they are pushing for some sort of significant compensation, and I imagine Chelsea's position isn't we don't have the money. It's that they don't want. I mean, business-wise, it's not a good idea to say, "Oh yeah, okay, fine. 37-year-old guy, 1 year left on his contract. We'll give you $5 million." I mean, that is out of the market beyond what they would, what you would get for a player like that. And I think they want to be careful about setting bad precedents.
I would just like to see Drogba force their hand just a little bit. I know he loves Chelsea, and that's where he wants to end up. But tell them, listen, I'll come back, but give them something. Don't have me retire so you guys get a Frio and I come over here and coach for you. Mm-hmm. Give them something, and then I do have the option. Yeah. And I kind of worry that he's not looking out for Montreal a little bit. I think he should. He should give them a little bit of credit for what happened.
Maybe. Appreciate the call, Bill.
Appreciate it.
Thanks a lot. Bill up in New York. Let's move on. Let's talk about Real Madrid with Mr. Eddie in Brooklyn. What's up, Eddie?
Hey, what's up, man? Before I get to Madrid, for Jermaine Jones, if I'm him, I go to a place like Tijuana or the Liga MX.
If they want him.
Because the 6-game suspension, that's only about the U.S. Soccer Federation, right?
I believe that's right. Yeah, he's not. If he signs in Europe or in Mexico, that doesn't apply. There have been cases though, Eddie, that I think I don't know how this works. Maybe it's only within confederations, so maybe Mexico. But I know there have been cases where a player has been suspended in one league, transferred, and then the next league honored that suspension as dictated by the other league. I don't know. I don't know how that works. I don't know if it's officially on any books or if it's just sort of a handshake acknowledgement that we honor the suspensions handed down by other leagues or not. I don't know.
Even if it is, it's not like Liga MX is the most honorable league on the face of the earth anyway. So
well, we just got done talking about how
you can throw the ethics out the window on that one. But also, you got a guy like Miguel Herrera who's in charge. He'd be close to LA. And I'm pretty sure that they're looking for a Jermaine Jones type after they lost Güemes to America in the Apertura campaign. So he kind of might fill a need.
Yeah.
Just a thought.
Well, they just signed Juninho. So, we'll see how that goes for Juninho as well. Not that Juninho is the same sort of player as Jermaine Jones. I actually trust Juninho more, and he's 26 versus Jermaine Jones 31 or 2 or whatever he is. What else you got, Eddie?
The Madrid thing, I missed your shout out on the show the other day. So I figured I just wanted to call in and put my 2 cents.
Right,
I hate the move.
Yeah.
I hate it. I've always thought, because it's funny, when I was watching the game with my father that day, we were talking about as if Benitez was going to get sacked, and we didn't want Zidane to take over because I come from the philosophy a guy like Zidane should be able to have a preseason to implement his philosophy, summer to train with his guys and not be thrown in amid turmoil, players being upset, but kind of like a shattered locker room. You should kind of have a fresh start instead of trying to pick up the pieces from a guy like Benitez when considering this is kind of like his managerial debut. So I kind of feel like Florentino Perez put him in a tough spot. They should have probably gotten a caretaker like Chelsea did. People always asking like what name is out there. You're not going to get a big name. I don't know what Bielsa's been doing ever since he left Marseille, but a guy like local Bielsa would be a perfect caretaker for about 6 months. And then you bring it down.
Well, okay, if Bielsa would agree to do that for 6 months, and you thought you could control Bielsa, sure. But you're talking about adding crazy to a pot of crazy, especially with Florentino Perez, and I imagine at this point, we all sort of knew, Eddie, that when Benitez took the job, it was a weird fit to begin with, and to see it play out the way it did surprised nobody. And there was even a suggestion, because they probably could have fired him a week before, 2 weeks before they actually did. There was a suggestion that Perez was going to keep Benitez in the job as a shield against criticism for Perez. And so if you throw Bielsa into that mix, I think that perhaps Perez probably doesn't want a guy. I don't know. Obviously Mourinho's been talked about, but that's a different sort of figure. So it's tough.
With hiring Zidane, Perez he let a shield down. He's completely on the hook for this one because Zidane fails now. Everybody can look at Florentino like, okay, well, it's not managers. For me, I'll tell you right now, Florentino Perez is the greatest president in the history of Barcelona. The greatest president, because ever since he's really taken over and taken the reins, they have been killing us with titles.
I know.
And he keeps making mistake after mistake.
I know. Well, let me ask you, do you think, we all love Zidane, right? And he wasn't the cleanest player. We know that. Obviously, people making jokes about the headbutt in 2006, but that's not his legacy. His legacy is as a great player, as one of the most powerful, dynamic midfielders we've ever seen. People love Zidane. You think that this is Perez just going gaga for Zidane and his charisma? Because again, as you said, he's not built for this particular task at this particular club, the most pressurized managerial job in the world.
I think it's Florentino really just trying to cover his ass, kind of like, look, I gave the fans what they wanted. This is the kind of guy they wanted in charge. But it really all it's doing is highlighting the fact how big of a mistake he committed by firing Carlo Ancelotti to begin with. That's all it really does. So it's anybody who's not blinded by the name and can see clearly what Florentino's doing, it's just it really highlights how much he doesn't have control. He doesn't have control of the club at all. He has no idea what he's doing with player movement anymore. He gave Carlo Ancelotti an unbalanced midfield, told him to figure it out with 4 number 10s in the midfield and try to get some kind of some kind of defensive cover for the center backs. And then when Carlo Ancelotti fails, it's like, well, I gave you the pieces. The guy has no idea what he's doing anymore. It's really, it doesn't matter. It comes to it doesn't matter who you put in charge anymore. He's the one that has to go.
You look at the situation, Eddie, and my fear again, because we all love Zidane, and a world where Zinedine Zidane is a top level manager is a better soccer world for all of us. I think I don't care where he's at, whether it's in France or at Real Madrid or whatever. And you look at the odds of Zinedine Zidane failing are so much better than the odds of Zinedine Zidane hitting the ground running and being an absolute blockbuster out of the gate. And it's going to set the tone. It doesn't mean his career is going to be over when he leaves, because he's going to leave. I'm just saying it's going to set the tone for a while, and I don't want to watch that man have to deal with, again, Perez behind the scenes, Real Madrid and the pressure, Ronaldo and the ego. I mean, because I said this yesterday, Eddie. This job isn't, at this point for Zidane, this isn't a tactics job. Not really. I mean, there may be some issues.
It's play management.
It's all man management. It's all ego management, and that he's going to walk into that locker room and he's going to command a respect. But can he individually figure out how to put these pieces together and again, what is success at this point? 3rd place in La Liga, round of 16. You're absolutely got to get to the quarterfinals. But what is success?
He's got to win the Champions League. Unfortunately, that's the standard. I mean, maybe because it's Zidane now, maybe if he just makes the semifinal and finishes in the top 2, he'll be okay. But even if he quote unquote fails, I don't think it's necessarily going to be to his detriment, because
no, of course. But
you liken it back to Juan Chop in Costa Rica when he took over, because I had the same concerns, because this is the guy that we idolized. I mean, at least I idolized growing up, the greatest player we ever produced, and now he's in charge of the national team. And then you see the way he went out, losing. I think it was not winning a match in like nine consecutives, and then that fight he had with the security guard and the U23s kind of was an ugly way for him to go out. But then you fast forward a couple of months, he's taken over Saprissa, and he built a champion in a couple of weeks' time, and then now he's trying to build a really strong team for CCL, which I think Liga MX and MLS teams should worry about if they get Saprissa in the group. They brought in Pinedo. They're talking about bringing in Blas Perez. He's trying to build a really strong contender in Saprissa. So even if Zidane fails in Madrid, he can still always go to France, get a job in France.
Sure,
it's not
but
necessarily going to be his end.
It's not the way that he and maybe I'm being too traditional about this, but I would have rather seen, and this is on Zidane too, for accepting this. I do think that the siren call of Real Madrid is impossible to deny, but he could have gone to France. He could have picked a small club and worked his way up and learned the craft and done all of those things. I mean, he could have been, I don't know that you want to put him on Gary Neville necessarily, but he could have been more like Gary Neville. That's a big job out of the gates for Gary Neville, but it's not the biggest job in the world.
Yeah, but you can't turn down Madrid, man.
I know, that's the problem.
That's the job.
That's the problem. Job. And Perez knows that. And that just makes me, I just worry. That's all. Yeah.
I mean, when you think about it, they only lost 3 games this year. They're crazy. They only lost 3 games.
I know.
Right?
I know.
Chelsea was in shambles. Louis van Gaal still has a job. Rafa Benitez lost 3 games.
Yeah.
How am I still employed?
Yeah. I don't. It's one of those things though where obviously, and you know this, it's at Madrid. It's not just about how many games you win, how many games you lose. It's how you play. And he did have. I've looked at the stats. I'm sure you've seen these too. He did have the lowest win percentage of anybody in the last 5 managers at Madrid. That doesn't go back very far, but that is the truth. So there is.
I mean, he only had 7 months though. Some of those guys had like a full season and a half, 2 full seasons. So a loss is going to count more.
This is true.
Percentages.
Yeah. In terms of it's going to hit his numbers harder. You're right. It absolutely is. All right. I got Aaron who wants to tip in on this in a second here. Eddie, you got anything else?
No, man, I'm good.
All right, Eddie in Brooklyn, good stuff always. Thanks a lot, man.
Easy.
Completely great to talk to Eddie every single time out. Let's talk to Aaron up in Jersey. What's going on?
Hey, I actually think this is great for Zidane and for Real Madrid, and it has more to do with the psychology of the club and less to do with the results. I know that sounds kind of crazy, but I think this is almost like legacy. And the best analogy I would have would be, so take the Yankees and, which I think are the only other kind of organization in the planet when it comes to sports that has the same kind of, cachet and equity that, Real Madrid has. And, take, 5 years from now or 6 years from now, Derek Jeter, which would he really be ready to be a manager or this or that? Probably not.
No.
But he brings a certain, combination that's bigger than sports, in the tactical sense or the technical sense of sports, but is a certain almost cachet. And whether he works out in pure result sense is less to do with he brings back a certain flavor that is Real Madrid. And that goes all the way back to the Stefano.
Okay, but give me
back to really the whole lineage.
Aaron, you did identify that Real Madrid and the New York Yankees are in a class by themselves in terms of their profile and the pressure and the fan base and everything else. But give me an example where this sort of dynamic. To put Zidane on Real Madrid club legend is a little disingenuous. That's not really where he made his career, but he certainly finished up there, and he was certainly part of the Galacticos. So there is that. But give me an example where this worked. We're taking a player from the team and the team's heyday and some of their best teams, a superstar, one of the greatest players ever, and putting him on the sideline or in the managerial box worked.
Well, I can take a bunch of examples both in sports and in life.
Okay.
In life, people like Jim Baker, when the world goes sideways and you want to get something done, you call a Jim Baker from his golf club or whatever, and just magic happens. And it's not magic. It never is.
Well,
it's the ability to walk into a room and people listen. And that is the first step, and I think Eddie nailed it earlier where it comes to this is about managing people, and there's such a scale of personalities. I mean, you're managing the Brazilian national team in the '60s, kind of, in terms of the scale of the personalities involved at Real Madrid, and I would take someone like Larry Bird, who, he was kind of an ornery guy. No one really gave him much of a shot, especially after kind of Magic bombed out. And I think he did really a hell of a job, and really in some cases still does. And I'm not saying Zidane is the same kind of meticulous person, but we don't really know. I mean, it's almost like what we know about him are his actions as a young man in his 20s and 30s. And we don't really know him as this kind of guy in his 40s who goes to work every day and picks up the kids or, whatever, goes grocery shopping. And I think he might really be more of a Larry Bird type person. So that's kind of an example that I have. And I would say this is good for him because while I think it's a great idea to work your way up over 15 years and 10 clubs and kind of chug your way across average mid-tier, teams and second or third quality, leagues in Europe, I think there's a risk in doing that, in that your portfolio becomes what you did and no one listens to what you were limited in doing. Whereas Zidane's going to be able to have some impact, I think, psychologically with some players. And I would say a player he's going to have a huge impact in that I don't think people would really recognize won't be a guy like Benzema who knows what kind of Benzema you're ever going to get back. So I think will be James. I think a guy like James, who's been in some ways under the shadow of these, titans, and I think in some cases kind of, not knowing what to do next. A guy like Zidane can say, hey, come over here and let's talk a little bit. And, I think he could shape a guy like his career. He's not going to change Ronaldo. I think Ronaldo and him, I'll be honest with you, the most interesting thing ever would be a one-on-one dinner to see the two of these guys hang out and talk like as adults.
Because
they each have,
oh man,
a weird take.
Yeah, that's I don't think. I mean, this is completely unfair of me, and maybe he is a supremely engaging person with a wonderful personality and a sharp wit. But I just get the sense that talking to Cristiano Ronaldo, even in Portuguese, even in his native tongue, is probably like talking to a brick wall. Like I don't get the sense that there's a whole lot there. But that's just me. Maybe that's unfair.
and you're probably right, but I'll tell you one thing. There's certain, I mean, a guy like Ronaldo or Messi, or I would say every player today has an ego. But,
oh, yeah.
I mean, at a galactic level, no pun intended. But a guy like Zidane, who, was a couple of, events away from a second World Cup and kind of going into that other final group of greatest players ever, really. And I think he's really close there anyway. Is that, he has the champions and he has the World Cups. And not just that, he has the, put the game on my back, Magic Johnson kind of like I'm taking Earth against you, and I win.
Yeah.
And I don't care what anyone wants to say about Ronaldo or Messi or, the greatest players of the last 10, 15 years. There really hasn't been that, and I'm not saying comparing Zidane to Magic Johnson because it's not quite the same, but it's close. It's because of the personalities they brought to the table and how they marshaled, everybody around them. And and Jordan obviously has that. And I'm using a ton of American sports analogies, but I just think a guy like Zidane has a really good shot at maybe not keeping this job, because I don't think anyone can keep this job. I think it's an unkeepable job. But at actually leaving with a lot more respect than he came in with. Okay. Where people are going to say, oh, wow, this guy,
at the very least,
this guy is special.
At the very least, in terms of the dramatics of sports and the stories that it provides, this is interesting. And he's sort of, it just occurs to me that he's sort of the anti-Mourinho, right? I mean, Mourinho, a guy who didn't have any real playing career to speak of, went into management at a young age because that was what was available to him, went to coaching, worked his way through a couple of, he actually managed Benfica briefly in 2000 before kind of going and earning some stripes and then going to Porto and doing everything he did at Porto, building up to the point where he was Real Madrid's choice. It would be because of what he had done as a coach. Zidane gets that opportunity because of who he is as a figure. It doesn't mean he can't be successful. It just means it's a different sort of path.
Exactly. I have one quick little prediction, and I actually think Zidane and Mourinho, in terms of what's going on right now, is a seismic moment of psychology, kind of like a Kardashian moment but in soccer. I think we are at the end of the Mourinho mentality era, and we are in this newer, and I would say Zidane is a great example of that, professional era. Got class, no drama, Obama kind of personality, and I think is where Zidane ends up, and in the end, and I think this is a huge opportunity, is PSG. I think he does well here, and then well enough, and define well enough is it doesn't go chaos. And I think the PSG job becomes a home run for him. And then that's a whole different story, because you're talking about, Magic Johnson, if he could coaching Michigan State, type of thing. And I just really think Zidane, and I just believe in the guy based on his personality. I read a great biography on him a few years back, which I recommend. And he's a very different guy, he's just than the regular kind of footballers with, only ego and fast cars and all that kind of stuff.
We'll see what happens. It should be fascinating. Aaron in New Jersey, great call as always, man. I appreciate it. We're going to roll here.
Thank you.
There goes Aaron. Thanks, good so stuff from him as always. Man, what a good show. Amanda Duffy, president of Louisville City FC. That interview was fantastic. If you missed that, you have to go back and listen to it. Podcast out later this afternoon. Speaking of this afternoon, MLS schedule 2016 will be landing at some point this afternoon, probably after I'm off the air for Sirius XM, because that's just the way things happen. We do have the U.S. men's national team roster for the January camp to talk about. We'll be working through that over at SiriusXM FC as well. Please follow us on Twitter at Soccer Morning. Davis JSN is my handle. Hey Hayward for the freeze. Are you cold still, or is it they fix it? You're not cold anymore, right? Like you actually have maybe some space heaters. Okay. We'll see how Trevor's doing with his heat. But thank you very much for listening on a Thursday. We'll be back tomorrow with the final show of the week. Man, it's gone quickly, and we're getting into the new year rapidly. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Bye.